Children with autism remind us that there's more than one way to see, feel, and understand the world. I am Sole Quartucci, and this is Latina Republic Mental Health Conversations. Today, we're learning about autism in celebration of World Autism Day in April. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your experiences with us. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you get started working with children with autism, the ages you work with, and what a typical day looks like for you?
Hi everyone, I'm Giselle. I feel like I'm the newest in ABA therapy here today. I started in January actually, so I'm like 3 months in. I work with kids from 3 years old up to freshmen in high school. A day to day, I feel like it's kind of, in a way, the more you get to know your kid that you're working with, the easier it is. But you also always have to be open to, I guess, expecting the unexpected. And the reason why I got into ABA therapy, I'm currently in doing my master's program in clinical psychology, and eventually I want to work with teens. I feel like right now working with kids with autism is just helping me to, in a way, practice therapeutic skills through play therapy. It's I don't know, like I just feel like it, in a way, it's a job that gives you that flexibility, but also it's fulfilling as well because you get to see firsthand through the stigmas that people have around autism. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Giselle.
Hi everyone, my name is Crystal. I recently actually just left my ABA job, but I was doing it for about 3 years. I found it really fulfilling and also not quite what I expected because I had initially some fears about working professionally with children. But it's kind of like Giselle just said, like once you actually start to get to know your kiddos or your clients, it became easier because you just became to understand how they are as individuals and what their form of protests are. And at the end of the day, a lot of people might view them differently, but I still just saw them as a kid, as a child. So it was really fun to bond with them, and I was so sad to like leave them behind. But a day to day with them, I want to say each of my clients were different. So I had up to, I think the youngest client was about 3 years old, and the oldest one was 18, so she was an adult client. And each of them had their own personality, their own niches, their own likes. And some of them had more structured sessions, some of them had more just naturalistic sessions, which I like because I personally also am not a big fan of just rigidity and following, a schedule all the time. So it was fun to kind of switch that up with them as well.
Thank you, Crystal.
Hi, I'm Zhara. I have my bachelor for psychology and then care, health, and society, and then currently I'm a student for LMFT, family marriage therapy, in clinical psych. I've been working with kiddos since 2023. I did in home and I also did in school setting. And then currently I'm still in school setting as a one-on-one with kids on autism. It's a really loving job. I really like it because I have a lot of energy and like the kids really take my energy away, which I love it. It's one thing I every time I explain working with kids on autism, it taught me personally how to be patient and wait for the progress. Just things gonna be okay. It's okay to be patient. Not everything needs to be rushed. And I really feel, and I 100% sure their love is really pure once you find a connection with them.
Thank you so much. Yeah, now just a question we'd like to ask. What is something children with autism have taught you about seeing or experiencing the world differently?
Mm. I would say literally like living in your own world. I feel like we all do that. It's just we're more open to listening to what we're supposed to do, and kids with autism in a way don't. I feel like that's something I, as I grew older, unlearned to do so I can be more connected with myself. And I feel like um, working with kids on the spectrum, like they're always tuned in with themselves, so it's like the world has to catch up to them. But then again, this is like a shared world, so I feel like that's that's where a lot of like the misunderstandings, or seeing like when they do have like certain misbehaviors can, like, it's like sometimes people would just, when they see the most negative about something, that's what they hold on to, when they don't see like everything. Like how Zara had said, like their love is pure, like it's um I don't know how to describe it, but I don't know if I'm making sense now, but I feel like in that way, just like just viewing, living your world and living in it. So yeah.
Kind of adding on to that, I think what I learned in the 3 years of working with individuals or just kids that have autism is that just because they have a different take or different perspective on the world doesn't mean that they are any lesser than of a person. Because a lot of times, especially that also failed to mention earlier that I'm also studying for my MFT in Latinx communities. A lot of Latino communities are very close-minded, and they are so easily they easily will just kind of like, if they see someone with a disability, say, oh, están mencitos, or they're like, you know, oh, déjalos, because they're just not, they're not fully there. But the thing is, they are there. It's just they have their own way of doing things, and just because they don't communicate in the same way that we do doesn't make them any less smart, any less of a person. And I never thought that, but kind of working with my kiddos time and time again, they would prove me like I am smarter than you, and I'm like, yeah, you are, you are smarter than me, and I love them for that. But they're just so genuine and raw in who they are, and I'm not sure, if they are fully like aware of those biases and like judgment, but it doesn't seem like they let it affect them, and I feel like that's the kind of mantra I would want to follow as well.
I completely agree with Giselle and Crystal. Like once you start working with them, it brings you completely to a different world, and then you kind of I don't know how to explain it again. Like how Giselle said, like you have to be in the field to really understand it. They are they're really smart. They like very smart, and then they know if they really want something, they really want something, and which is one thing I really appreciate from them. They really try hard for. It could be a toy, it could be a playground time, it could be a swing, anything. They really work on it until they get it. It might have some consequences. They might be delay on it. They might have some behaviors that, like, I don't know, it's time to go to the class, but now you have, but now they won't swing. But they really push forward. Like they really try hard, and as their aides, as their one-on-one, we're by their sides, and then we try to teach them the proper way as how it needs to be done. So that's how we put it.
Thank you so much. Can you share an example of how a child with autism approaches a situation in a way you hadn't considered before?
Like situation, like
It's something that surprised you, a
uh,
way in which they approach a situation differently, maybe
oh, okay.
creatively or assertively, that you hadn't thought of before you started working with them.
I mean, I usually get it when they try to elope from work, and like it comes to the point, like I had like students who would like it's their math time, and we have to suppose on a math worksheets, but they wanted to go and like play in a playground, and then instead of having a tantrum, they would like hide from me, and they would do the work like as soon as possible, and it could be wrong, but they would come to me and like, I'm finished, and I'm like, at the same time I can't really tell them anything because he really did the work. So sometimes they really comes to the time that they are really smart about it, and then they were like, well, you did it, I can't really talk about it. I can't really tell you anything.
Yeah, I feel like adding on to that, I didn't really, I guess, start to feel thinking like how kids with autism should act. I just felt like I just get to know them and go from there. Um, like similar to Zara's example, I feel like when they do want I feel like that's the importance of getting to know your kids, so you know what does motivate them to get like a certain goal, whether it's like social skills or learning how to handle big emotions come. I feel like I've I guess something unique is just seeing how, like, for example, for one of my kids recently, he really wanted like this lollipop. I didn't even have to tell him like or set up like certain goals for him. He just did them right away because he really wanted that lollipop. So I feel like it just goes back to like this is their world. They move at their speed, and in a way, we just have to like just like with anybody. The more you just get to know people, the less different. The like I think the smaller the different lens is because you're able to connect more.
Thank you. That's really good.
I don't have like a set example. I think there was just several times, maybe similar to Giselle's, where I wouldn't have to say much or say it like the demand or the man for them to like do it. They would just surprise me and kind of just like take it a step further. And a lot of them, I remember specifically this 13-year-old client I had. He was very attached to me. He liked to hold my hand, and I know in a lot of professional settings, like you're not like really supposed to, or a lot of people feel iffy about that, so they'll say, "Oh, space, please." And so I would notice for him that would actually steer him away, so he would not want to work with those therapists. And so when I would use my hand as a reinforcer, he was just very motivated to like do it, and I noticed that that was just his way of connecting with people, which might have suddenly steered off others. And I remember I went on a trip for a week, and another BT took over, and he was just used to saying like repetition. So if you asked him to say something, he'll say it, but he independently would not speak. And that time, his family told me that he, in full sentence, told the BT, "Where is she? Where did she go?" And I was like, "No way! Like that is so cool to hear that. I know you're capable of this, but like how you guys already shared, they need that certain motivation to get it out." And so I think when I hear those sort of things where they make independent process or like progress towards something, I'm like so happy for them.
Thank you so much. Talents or strengths have you noticed in children with autism?
I would say creativity is definitely up there. They're very creative with how they express themselves, with how they want certain things, how they communicate. I would also say just they're very, like I said, they're very intelligent. So a lot of people will assume that just because they learn differently, they're not. They are not learning like everybody else. But I know at least all the ones that I knew, they were very intelligent. They're very motivated as well. It's just about finding that right motivation for them because it's not a one size fits all.
I would say they're really smart. Because from my experience, for a little experience I have with the kids on autism, their brain really focus on one thing. If they want to really focus on one thing, they really focus on that one specific thing. And I've been seeing that because I work with only kinder to third grade. I don't work with any upper graders. Um, I have a student who work anything that you can imagine, who work really hard to earn the calculator. And then he's a math wizard. Like we really call him, you're a math wizard. As a kindergartner, he can multiply big numbers, divide big numbers. So I feel like they are very talented, and they're like, once people really notice that talent, and then if they really practice, and then be like, if that kiddo is really into math, then let's practice with math, let's give some classes. So it's not because they have autism they are anything different, they just like focusing on that more. So let's practice that one, let have that kid have fun with it. So that's how I put it.
Thank you so much. And I'm curious, what kind of tools or perhaps newer technologies have you found helps them in support a way of communication or emotional regulation?
Um, I want to say just technology in general is a pro and a con in itself, just because, especially for the kiddos that don't speak and they're nonverbal, even though the token and like Velcro visuals are good for them, I know we call them PECs. I think the actual device the communication device is very useful for them, especially because it's so easier. It's more convenient for them to just tap that button and say, "Okay, cookie, I want a cookie," right? But then at the same time, it creates, just like all of us, this obsession where, now I don't want to go anywhere without that device. Now I want to eat with the device. Now I want to go to sleep with the device. So, like I would say the main tool that's so useful for them is technology, but it's also kind of just, it has its negatives at the same time.
Thank you.
Well, they have, my kiddo is also nonverbal, so then he uses AC device. That's the way he communicates. Um, even when he goes to speech therapy, we have time that the speech really push it through that use the AC device. But as how Crystal said, it has its pros and cons. That it has less motivation for the kid to actually use his or her words, but at the same time, it brings down big emotions because now we can understand what the kiddo wants. If he needs something, how is he feeling? So it has pros and cons. That's how I would put it.
Yeah. I would say something that helps is just when it comes to, I guess, trying not to be dependent on something, trying to see what do they consider a safe space. I feel like I have clients at schools or at homes. I feel like at homes, there's usually like a certain area in a room or a specific room, usually a certain area where they prefer to be at during the day, and then that's separate from a specific space when they need that like alone time or just break time or whatever it may be. So I feel like that's a really helpful tool to just keep like in general a comfortable space and a safe space.
Children taught you about patience, empathy, or joy?
With one of my kids who's also nonverbal and he started to use his AHC device, um, I usually have to check in like with just asking like what do you want, just to see how he himself like initiates using his device. But I also tend to ask like how do you feel, and I open up like the emotions card, and he usually clicks like love. Like he's always like just very like um just positive. It facial expression wise you can't tell, but that's why I do enjoy like when he does choose to use a device. Um, but another kid of mine, I remember one time we were in the clinic and we were playing. I forgot what we were playing, but there was like a little like um a toy ring with a crown on it, and he picked it up and he put it in my head, and he was like queen, and I was like, that is so cute, you know? Like I was like, he was cooking eggs or something. I don't know. So it just goes to show like I guess we're used to communicating like this, like talking, but there's also different ways to communicate, and there's also different ways to show love too.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, something that I've learned probably, I think going into the field, I was told I had a lot of these qualities that of like being patient or being very empathetic, but I feel like I also learned from them that kind of like what Giselle said, that love or that affection can be expressed differently in different gestures. And I think that in itself is beautiful, understanding the client on their own. Like I said, that 13-year-old, he like really liked physical touch. That was his way of connecting. So I would not take that away from him. Also because it was a motivator for us in session. So I was like, okay, if you do this, like I'll let you play with my hand. And then I had another client who she loved to play it was like pretend, like dress up. She would like put makeup on me and things like that. And her mom would always tell me like, oh, like she doesn't do that with my other daughters. Like she must really like playing with you. So I feel like understanding them helped me understand that everybody has a different. I mean, I kind of knew this already, but just like reminding me that everybody has a different way of expressing love and patience and things like that. So I was very thankful, for whatever I learned from them as people.
For me, as I said at the beginning, I was a very rush person personally. Like, you gotta go at this set time. Like, it has to be on time. It has to be that. It has to be that. But then once I started working as an IBA or ABA or working with kids on autism, I learned that like life is too short for everything push it as a rush, and then it's okay sometimes to calm down and slow down, because a lot of times happen that like we just go for a walk with my kiddo, or just like, we just sit down and just do nothing, and I'm like, that actually feels good. Like, it's okay to not rushing it. It's okay to, just be it for a moment. So I really appreciate that from my experience with kids on autism.
Quality.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and back to the role of caretakers and parents. What is that like, or what type of support do parents need for their children who have autism?
I would say that's a really big takeaway. I mean, for autism, sometimes I don't have kids, but from my understanding, they're not noticeable until they're like 4 or 5, and then it's a huge transition. Like, sometimes the kids cannot go to after school programs, so then it will change the schedule for their jobs, or sometimes the kids won't be able to stay with the caregivers or even grandparents. Like, mom or dad has to be in the picture, so extra support definitely has to be there from either mom or dad, or even if it's from both, even better. So I would say it has a big transition to the parent's life, and then the support is definitely will be needed for the parents as well, because it's extra work, a little bit of extra work.
I have noticed that, I mean, a lot of the times with like those kiddos, they do receive a certain amount of hours of support, depending on their insurances. And a lot of the supervisors will organize like one-to-one meetings with them and kind of go over some of the things that we do in sessions. But I also understand it's hard to follow through with that. I notice that a lot with parents, because either they have a different parenting style, and their kiddos need a more firmer hand, like, oh, okay, you don't want to put your toys away, let me redirect you in like 10 minutes, we'll try again. And then there's those parents that have just like a, you need to do it now, and they struggle a lot with that because they might not have the patience for that, or maybe they don't know how to navigate through that. I do want to say that a lot of the families I work with, they were Latino families. So I don't know if they did received any type of therapeutic services, but I do think that's something they would benefit off of. Something that's more niche, that comes with having a child with developmental disabilities, because I have heard them, say it's draining, or we'll have to change my schedule, so I can be present for the ABA sessions. And it's a bit different, but at the same time, it's not because they try to raise them like their other children, but they understand that they have certain needs or certain accommodations that they need for their child to succeed. So it is a bit different or difficult for them to navigate that. And I did catch a few times where they would try to confide in me, but unfortunately, I would not. I would have to kind of redirect them, because I wasn't that kind of specialist where I can be like, oh, I'm sorry that you're going through that, but I can definitely see that it's difficult. So I think they would definitely benefit from a lot of support.
For families, I would say, like, it does take a village. Just being considerate of the fact that, in a way, your kid is busy. They have a tight schedule, because apart from like play therapy, they probably also have like occupational therapy, speech therapy. So that's a lot of like things going on at once, and on top of that, as a parent, you have to be on top of that for your kid. So I would say, just giving yourself grace, because you're doing a lot of things at once, and at the end of the day, you're doing it for your child. So I agree with like the advice that Zara and Crystal gave. I think the most important thing as a parent is like making sure you're you're taking care of yourself first, because your kid will like feed off of that as well. Um, and patience at the end of the day, like it is a journey. But the more that one is able to like be open to getting as many resources as you can, not just for kids with autism, but like for any resources, I think the easier it is as when kids get older to just be like the best version of themselves, because I feel like as a parent, like that's the most you would want for your kid. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And to wrap things up, How do you think society could learn from the perspective of people with autism?
I feel like it's just acknowledging like the difference. Like um, I feel like maybe some places try to normalize their norm, but everybody's different. I think through kids with autism, it's just like I said, like from the beginning, just like living in your own world. Um, I feel like sometimes they need help learning how to share their world or not accommodate, but coexist. But I feel like that's also what the world needs. So we wouldn't resort to solutions that are violent. We would resort more to communicating because at the end of the day, that's like one of our main goals with kids with autism is teaching them how to communicate with us. So I feel like what the world can learn for kids with autism is that too, to communicate.
I think I would say, just like it's easy for us to adapt to one another, people from different cultures and understand that we're all different and just embracing that. The same should be for these kids.
Sorry, there's a bee. Open your wings, girl. Oh, she's eating. Got it. That's a really good question, actually, because I feel like there's still in different communities that autism is like oh my gosh, that person has autism, but like there's no oh my gosh. That's the best way I can put it. Um, they're human beings, as Giselle said, they're just in their ward. But one comment I really want to put, just see them as a regular human being. There is no difference. There is no they're just regular kids. They're just regular humans. They just see the world differently. That's why in this field we call those kids on spectrum, because there's variety of the colors on them. Just see them in different colors, and then be welcome. If you don't know or if you have questions, just like if you see one of us as their aides, please go ahead and ask us. And but please be aware of them and see them as a regular human being. They are very lovey. So that's the best way I can put it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, and happy Autism Awareness Day.
Happy Autism Awareness Day.
Yay!